January 11th, 2023, McKinney, Texas. It was just after 10 p.m. when Kayla Kelly's neighbor heard the sound. A dog, whining, scratching at the front door. The light inside her apartment still glowed from the kitchen window, but no one answered the knock. Her car wasn't in the lot, but her purse, her keys, and her beloved dog Chile were still inside. Alone. Something wasn't right. The following morning, missed calls piled up on her phone, texts left unread. A friend stopped by. The dog was still barking. There was food in the bowl now, poured hastily, almost like someone didn't plan to stay long. But Kayla was nowhere. And 36 hours later, in a secluded stretch of land off a service road in Frisco, her vehicle was found. Burned, doors sealed, nothing left but melted metal and scorched earth. What could turn a promising evening into a vanishing act that left no clear trace? What led a bright, accomplished young woman to vanish, days after she uncovered a devastating truth? Stay with us, because this story may sound familiar, but you've never heard it told like this. Welcome to True Crime Her Story. Thanks for being with us. Stay tuned for the full story behind the headlines, a story that matters. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video to help keep her memory alive. Kayla Kelly was born in 1989 in Huntsville, Alabama. Life didn't offer her an easy start. Her parents struggled with addiction for most of her childhood. By the time she was 10, custody had been taken from them. It was her aunt and uncle who stepped in, determined to provide the structure she had never known. They weren't wealthy, but they were consistent. And to Kayla, that meant everything. Stability wasn't just a condition, it was a goal. From a young age, she developed habits that kept her grounded. Color-coded notebooks, early morning routines, neatly folded laundry. These weren't quirks. They were her way of creating control in a life that had once felt scattered. She graduated from Charles Henderson High School in 2007. Not just passed, she earned her spot at the top. Focused, disciplined. Always first to arrive in class, always last to leave the library. She was the kind of student teachers remembered. Quiet, but always listening. Her eyes held something that didn't need to be explained, the drive to change her future. By 2013, she had completed her bachelor's degree in Management Information Systems at Athens State University, graduating with honors. But even that wasn't enough. She went on to earn not one but two master's degrees in Florida. First, a master's in MIS in 2015, then an MBA with a focus in project management by 2020. Each degree wasn't just a credential, it was a step toward independence, toward the life she was building on her own terms. In 2021, she moved to McKinney, Texas, new town, new position, a project manager role that finally aligned with her ambition. The apartment she chose wasn't flashy, but it was hers. Decorated in soft tones, every wall carefully curated, a few framed degrees, a vision board tucked behind the pantry door, a space filled with quiet pride. But the centerpiece of her home wasn't a diploma or a desk, it was Chile, her dog. A golden mix with wide eyes and a heart that followed her from room to room. To Kayla, Chile wasn't just a pet. He was family. Someone she greeted first thing in the morning, someone she talked to after long days. Friends often said Chile could sense her moods before she said a word. Kayla loved the simple things. Brunch on Saturdays, Target runs that turned into afternoon escapes, scented candles that matched her mood, long texts to close friends. Voice notes that always ended with "love you." She was expressive, never afraid to say exactly what she felt, but always with warmth. Her phone background wasn't a selfie, it was a picture of a beach with the words "make it make sense." A motto. A promise to herself to never settle for less than clarity, love, and honesty. She wasn't searching for perfection. She was looking for something true. Someone who wouldn't lie. Someone who would match her energy. A love that wouldn't run when things got hard. A partner who saw her fully and stayed. She wanted what she never had growing up, love without betrayal. There's a photo of her from a friend's birthday, curled hair, bright smile, holding Chile like a baby. In the corner of the frame, there's a small plant on the windowsill. Its name was Olive. She named all her plants, said it made them grow better, said everything grew better with care. Kayla cared about her future, about her people, about building something lasting. She deserved a lifetime. But what she got instead was a moment, a single moment that would change everything. By the summer of 2022, Kayla had found a rhythm in McKinney. She was settled into her job, Chile was thriving, and her weekends were filled with brunch, journaling, and occasional dinner dates with close friends. But even with her degrees, her independence, and her soft place to land, there was one part of her life that still felt unfinished. Love. A real one. The kind she didn't have to shrink herself for. She'd tried dating in the past, but nothing seemed to last beyond a few weeks. So when a new message popped up from a man named Kevin Brown on a dating app, it felt like a small invitation to hope again. Kevin was charming. His messages were direct, warm, never too forward. He complimented her smile, asked about her work, remembered the name of her dog without needing to be reminded. He told her he liked that she was intentional. That word stuck with her. Intentional. It was how she lived her life. It felt good to be seen. When they moved from messages to phone calls, their conversations stretched for hours. He didn't push for photos or late-night calls. He listened. He asked about her past. He said, "You deserve peace. A woman like you doesn't need chaos." And for Kayla, who had grown up surrounded by disorder, those words felt like security. They met in person a few weeks later. He said he lived in Grand Prairie and worked nearby. He told her he didn't carry cards, just preferred cash. Said he'd had issues with identity theft in the past. She didn't question it at first. The date went well. They talked over dinner. He opened doors, walked her to her car, kissed her hand before saying goodnight. That night, she sent a voice note to her friend. "Girl, he's grown. He's different. Like, for real." But different started feeling distant. He'd cancel plans last minute, go silent for 2 or 3 days. When he resurfaced, the excuses felt rehearsed. Flat tire, long shifts, family emergencies. He never video called, never brought her to his place. When she asked if she could drop something off, he redirected. Always polite, but always dodging. He told her he wasn't on social media, said it was too noisy. He never gave her a last name, just Kevin. No photos of family, no traceable past. Kayla started noticing the patterns. She'd write about it in her journal. "There's something I'm missing," she scribbled next to a line that read, "Pay attention." She wasn't the type to accuse without proof, but the flags kept rising. One night, after he didn't return her texts for nearly 4 days, she texted her best friend, "Either he's married or I'm crazy." Still, when he showed up with that same easy smile, she let herself believe. It wasn't that she didn't see the signs. It was that she wanted to be wrong. People change. People are private. Maybe she was overthinking. He was sweet with Chile. Always brought her favorite snacks. One time he surprised her with bath salts and wine after a hard week. He told her, "I want to be a safe space for you," and she wanted that to be real. But something kept tugging, a knot in her stomach that wouldn't go away. She noticed his phone never left his pocket. It was always on silent, always face down. He never answered it in front of her. One evening, while he napped on her couch, she stared at it sitting beside his keys. She didn't move, just watched it for a long time. That night, she wrote one sentence in her journal. "Next time he falls asleep, I'm checking his phone." She wasn't looking to start drama. She was looking for clarity. If it confirmed her fears, she would let go. If it didn't, she could finally exhale. She had just one plan. Check his phone, and then decide. It was late, January 10th, 2023. He'd fallen asleep on the couch again. His phone rested just inches from Kayla's knee, face down as always. For weeks, she'd gone back and forth. Do I check it or let it be? That night, she didn't second guess. She picked it up quietly, held her breath, and slid her finger across the screen. No passcode. She would later tell a friend that part scared her most. It was like he never expected her to question him. The first thing she saw was a thread of messages between him and someone named Trina. At first, it looked normal, sweet even. But one sentence made her throat tighten. "I'm on my way home, baby. I'll be quiet. I know the kids are sleeping." She scrolled faster. There were messages to another woman and another. All romantic, all recent, all signed with his name. Except the name wasn't Kevin. It was Ocastor. Ocastor Ferguson. She stared at the name for a long time. The man who had told her he wanted to build something honest had been lying since day one. He wasn't just cheating, he was married, and living a double life that made their entire relationship feel staged. Kayla sat on the edge of her bed that night, still holding the phone. She didn't cry, she didn't scream, she started typing. One message went to Trina, his wife, another to one of the women in the messages. Then another. She introduced herself, she told the truth, she sent screenshots. She didn't rant, she didn't curse, she was calm, straightforward. Her voice was the voice of someone who had decided, this stops here. One friend later said that Kayla had always believed in accountability. If someone crossed the line, they had to answer for it. That night, she chose clarity over silence. She didn't block him, she didn't ghost him, she waited for him to wake up. When he opened his eyes, she handed the phone to him and said, I know everything. She didn't raise her voice. She just told him what she found, what she sent, and who she sent it to. She told him everything, and he listened in silence. The next day, January 11th, 2023, around 6:30 p.m., Kayla left work. She texted a friend just after, said she had something to handle. Her car was spotted hours later heading south on Highway 360. Okester was behind the wheel, she was in the passenger seat. They weren't speaking. The silence in that car was heavy, not the kind that follows an argument, but the kind that comes after truth has emptied a room. The route took them past open land, barely lit roads, industrial fencing. Around 9 p.m., he turned onto a quiet service road near his neighborhood in Grand Prairie. No houses, no cameras, just space. He pulled over, no words, just hands. It happened fast. There was no shouting, no warning. He reached across and grabbed her by the neck. The vehicle became a cage. Kayla tried to fight. Her nails dug into his arm, her body twisted to escape. But the space was too tight. She couldn't get leverage. The air left her lungs before she could scream. He didn't stop until her arms went still. And just like that, the woman who'd built a life with discipline and love was gone. He moved quickly. He laid her body in the back seat, covered her with a blanket. He drove just a short distance to a wooded lot near his house. In the cold night air, he dug a shallow trench beneath the trees. No headstone, no care, just soil, leaves, and silence. He laid her face down, stripped her of her clothes, took her phone, buried it deep with her. That same night, he went to Walmart. Surveillance video showed him walking the aisles alone, focused, calm. He bought a gas can, gloves, lighter fluid. No hesitation. Then, as if running an errand, he drove her car to Frisco, over 30 miles from where she died. He parked in a remote area, doused it with gasoline, and lit the match. Flames swallowed the interior, seats, dashboard, any trace of the woman who once laughed behind that wheel. The fire lit up the night sky. A security camera across the lot caught it glowing between branches, the last evidence of where she'd been. Back in McKinney, Chile was alone, pacing the apartment, scratching at the door. No one filled his water bowl. The lights stayed on, but Kayla never came home. A neighbor knocked, but no one answered. And all through the night, the dog cried. Kayla never left Chile alone, not for 1 hour. By the morning of January 12th, Kayla's phone had stopped responding. No calls, no texts. Friends reached out. Nothing. She wasn't just silent, she was unreachable. Kayla was the kind of person who answered even if she was in a meeting. She checked in, she followed up. So when the hours stretched past noon, and still no reply, something shifted. One friend drove by her place. Chile's barking was the first thing they heard. Through the window, the blinds were half closed, the porch light still on. No signs of movement. Later that night, another text came through the group chat. Have you heard from Kayla? The replies were all the same. No. On January 13th, her coworkers reported her absence. She hadn't called in. Her manager said that had never happened, ever. That afternoon, a welfare check was requested at her McKinney apartment. When deputies arrived, the door was locked, but the dog was still there. No food, no leash. The television was off. There were no signs of a struggle. But her car wasn't outside, and her phone was no longer pinging. At first, officers logged her as missing. But by that evening, things started moving fast. Investigators traced phone records. They pulled location data. A name surfaced, Okester Ferguson. He wasn't listed as a partner or emergency contact, but messages between him and Kayla painted a different story. Officers went to his house in Grand Prairie. Parked out front was a vehicle registered to his wife. Inside that car they found duct tape, gloves, a blanket, tools with fresh smudges. When asked about Kayla, Okastor said she was just a friend he hadn't seen in days, but his phone data said otherwise. It had his apartment, near the location where her phone last sent a signal, near the burned lot in Frisco, and right outside the woods behind his home. The next day, January 14th, authorities arrested Okastor on kidnapping charges. But the search didn't stop. Investigators pulled surveillance footage from local stores. At a Walmart in Grand Prairie, just hours after Kayla was last seen, a man matching Okastor's build was captured on camera buying a gas can and lighter fluid. He paid in cash. The timestamp aligned with when Kayla's car was later found engulfed in flames. That discovery came January 12th. The vehicle was parked in a remote stretch of Frisco, about 35 miles from where she'd last been seen. The fire had burned so hot the paint had bubbled off the frame, but they confirmed it was her car through registration and wheel markings. Inside, investigators found no trace of Kayla. But the passenger seat had been reclined. The back seat smelled of gasoline. Investigators began canvassing the area around Okastor's home. His phone showed it had been idle there for several hours during the time Kayla vanished. On January 18th, a cadaver dog paused in a wooded lot just behind his neighborhood. The ground had been disturbed, branches broken, the dirt recently packed. Officers moved in slowly. Shovels hit something solid, and that's when they found her, buried face down, wrapped in a sheet. 6 days after she vanished, investigators found disturbed soil just yards from his home. Once Kayla's body was found, everything moved faster. The charges against Okastor Ferguson escalated from kidnapping to murder. Investigators began organizing a timeline that would later become the backbone of the prosecution. They pulled location data from Ferguson's phone and matched it against Kayla's last known activity. His cell pinged at 3 critical places: her apartment, the wooded lot behind his home, and the site where her car was found burning in Frisco. Each timestamp closed the gap between theory and fact. Surveillance footage from the Walmart in Grand Prairie showed him walking the aisles just after midnight, alone, focused, selecting items investigators said were used to destroy the evidence. A gas can, lighter fluid, gloves. He paid in cash. The receipt and video matched the burn location. And then came the text. Hours after Kayla had already been buried, Okastor sent a message to her phone. "Hey baby, where are you?" It was presented in court as a calculated attempt to redirect suspicion. But the phone was already underground. That one message, prosecutors said, sealed his intent. It wasn't concern, it was theater. The trial began in early 2024. It didn't take long for the evidence to stack. Prosecutor Greg Willis led with digital forensics, GPS records, call logs, surveillance timestamps. He told the jury that Kayla's life ended not in chaos, but in silence. He laid out the pattern: deceit, concealment, and then control. One by one, witnesses were called. Crime scene techs, fire investigators, cell tower analysts. Each piece tightened the frame. The courtroom listened in silence as Kayla's last known movement was recited minute by minute. But it was the testimony of Ferguson's wife, Latrina, that brought a different kind of stillness. She confirmed what Kayla's messages had already proven, that her husband had a pattern of lying, disappearing for days, and sleeping in his car when caught cheating. She admitted women had come to the door before, that she had asked him to leave on more than one occasion. Her voice didn't shake, but her words landed like lead. Defense attorneys tried to distance Ferguson from the burial site. They claimed he and Kayla had argued, but that he left her unharmed. They said he had no reason to hurt her. But the data told a different story. His phone stayed on the property long after hers went dark. The message sent from her phone came from the same location where she was buried, and the gas station footage matched the window of time between her disappearance and the fire. The jury didn't hesitate. On January 23, 2024, after just 1 hour of deliberation, they returned with a verdict: guilty on all counts. The courtroom remained quiet. There were no outbursts, no applause, just a long exhale from the people who had waited over a year to hear her name, followed by justice. In May, the sentencing was delivered. Life in prison. No parole. No appeals were offered. Okastor Ferguson was led from the courtroom in silence, shackled, head down, no final words. Outside, Kayla's friends stood in a circle. They held photos, one of her in cap and gown, another of her smiling beside Chile. They didn't speak to reporters that day. They didn't need to. The court had spoken. The facts had spoken. And now Kayla's voice, quiet, determined, and brave, had finally been heard. She graduated with honors. Twice. Her first degree in management information systems. Her second, a master's in the same field. And then she kept going. An MBA with a concentration in project management. She never stopped learning. Her vision board was taped inside the pantry, 5 squares in gold marker. Financial freedom, marriage, travel, peace, and family. She wasn't chasing luxury. She wanted roots. Coworkers remember her as the one who always volunteered for the hard tasks, the one who made sure birthdays were never forgotten, who knew how to fix a spreadsheet error no one else could explain. She kept a blanket in her desk drawer, not for comfort, but because someone else was always cold. They say her laugh filled the break room. Friends described her as the truth teller. The planner. The one who always texted you after the party to make sure you got home safe. She wrote thank you notes. She remembered anniversaries. She believed in forgiveness, but she also believed in accountability. Kayla was not naive. She was honest. She was brave. And her bravery deserves to be remembered. At her memorial in McKinney, they placed her framed graduation photo beside a candle shaped like a heart. Chile sat quietly next to her aunt during the service, his head resting on her lap, like he was still waiting for Kayla to walk through the door. There were no speeches from public officials, no headlines screaming justice. Just people who loved her, people who came to say thank you. Thank you for being the kind of woman who stood up when it mattered. For saying the thing many are too scared to say. For exposing a lie that could have kept hurting more people. They left flowers near the spot where her car was found. A few brought notes. One simply read, "You deserved forever." Her story is not just a tragedy. It's a testimony. A reminder that no degree, no salary, no strength can guarantee safety when love disguises harm. All she wanted was love that didn't hurt. Kayla Kelly's name should be a warning and a tribute. If her story moved you, help it move further. Like this video, share it with someone you love. Subscribe for more stories that honor Black women's voices and demand justice in their name.